Zelensky is boasting on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and in that video I told you that Ukraine is not legally recognized, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, nobody's asking Zelensky to recognize Crimea as Russian territory, but if he wants Crimea, why didn't he fight for it 11 years ago, or Ukraine, when it was handed over to Russia without a shot being fired? There are also houses for many years before the Obama handover, major Russian submarine bases, inflammatory statements like Zelensky's make this so difficult to settle the war. He has nothing to boast about. The situation for Ukraine is dire. How can he have peace, or can he fight for another 3 years before losing the whole country? I have nothing to do with Russia, but have much to do with wanting to save, on average, 5,000 Russian and Ukraine soldiers a week who are dying for no reason whatsoever. The statement made by Zelensky today will do nothing but prolong the killing field, and nobody wants that. We are very close to a deal, but the man with the no cards to play is now finally saying, let's get it done. So, I mean, that sounds pretty strong, especially, and we'll show it in just a minute, that in case anybody missed it, what Vance said from the tarmac there, but that's from the man himself. It's basically has all but said, we're ready to walk.
Yeah.
That's what you call reading somebody the riot act.
Yeah. You know, this Ukraine was supposed to sign tomorrow, the rare earth deal. We're not hearing anything about that. And I don't think
how many times have we been at the signing ceremony? That's 3 times that we've been there and we haven't signed it yet. So we'll see if that happens.
Well, and candidly, if I was Ukrainian, I wouldn't sign the deal. I mean, good God, it's, it's giving away everything. But it's one of the, in fact, I'm beginning to suspect that Trump put that specifically on the table as a demand in order to force a separation with Ukraine. That this was a deliberate effort, knowing that it would sabotage it. But the Zelensky, he's unbalanced. There's no other way to describe it. He is not in touch with reality. He doesn't. You can deny all he wants that the Russia's getting beat. I mean, they keep putting out information, and it's repeated by the Brits, and the Institute for the Study of War. These delusional folks in Washington and in London keep repeating the nonsense that, oh yeah, boy, Ukraine's winning, man. They got the Russians right where they want them.
Well, you've mentioned it a couple of times already, but somebody who is not saying that the Ukraine side has the Russians where they want them is the Vice President of the United States.
Yeah, you mentioned this before, Larry, that we've got it.
We've issued a very explicit proposal to both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from this process. We've engaged in an extraordinary amount of diplomacy, of on-the-ground work. We've really tried to understand things from the perspective of both the Ukrainians and the Russians. What do Ukrainians care the most about? What do the Russians care the most about? And I think that we've put together a very fair proposal. We're going to see if the Europeans, the Russians, and the Ukrainians are ultimately able to get this thing over the finish line. Again, I feel pretty optimistic about it. I think everybody has been negotiating in good faith, but it's now time, I think, to take, if not the final step, one of the final steps, which is at a broad level, the parties saying, we're going to stop the killing, we're going to freeze the territorial lines at some level close to where they are today.
Or we're just going to walk away. I mean, I think that's where we're at. And then it's up to Kiev and to Brussels and all the other capitals in Europe to figure it out. What do you think happens here?
Well, we're going to walk away. Let me point out, did you hear what Peskov, the Kremlin press spokesman, said just a little bit ago?
Did not see that, no.
In an interview with Lapointe, he said, Ukraine must withdraw its troops from the territories of Donbass and Novorossiya, which have become part of the Russian Federation. There will be no reset, rollback, or surrender of any new regions. This is not even a subject for bargaining. It's a closed topic.
Oh, wow. That's a major, major statement. I had not seen that. I thought you were going to say the 4 regions of the annexed territory, the administrative borders. That's not Novorossiya. Novorossiya is much more than that.
Yeah. Sumy, Dnipropetrovsk, Odessa. No, Russia's going to, they've put up with this, I think, about as long as they care to, and they want to have an open relationship with the United States. They want to, a friendly relationship, have normal relations. But Putin made it very, very clear 4 weeks ago now when he spoke to that group of Russian industrialists and businessmen, and he said, "Look, guys, if you're planning on an era where we're not going to be sanctioned, where we're not going to have to deal with tariffs, where the United States is not, and the West are not going to be trying to impose some attack on us, economic or otherwise, you're dreaming. That's never going to happen. So we got to go forward recognizing that's the world we live in. We're going to defend ourselves. We're going to defend Russian interests." And the statement now by Peskov is as clear as it can be. And there is nothing that Donald Trump can offer the Russians that will say, "Oh man, that's a great offer. Let's have a ceasefire, and we'll give back those territories that voted to become part of the Russian Federation." Well, we didn't mean it. It's not going to happen. And so the delusion that's on our side of the ocean has got to be put to bed.
Well, it sounds like that's going to happen sooner rather than later, and possibly even later this week.
Yeah.
As Trump said a couple of days ago that he's going to announce the details of his offer in 3 days. He said, I think 3 days would have expired tomorrow. But in light of these comments here, and in light of the fact that there was supposed to have been a meeting in London today of at the ministerial level, defense ministerial level, that didn't happen, and Kellogg basically went there by himself along with the Ukrainian delegation, so they're all left holding the bag and not really anything to talk about because everybody else, to include the host London, actually didn't send their foreign minister Lamy either. So, their foreign minister, yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't send anybody there, but now then, and Rubio, this is also in the Ukrainska Pravda released today. It essentially just says, we're there now, maybe not later, but we're there now, and there's not going to be any kind of deal done, or we're just going to walk. I mean, he repeated the same thing that they've been saying. So all the people are saying, Secretary of Defense, Vice President, President, they're all saying the same thing today.
Yeah.
Really, all the finality that's coming out right from all the different the players of the game here, right?
Yeah, this is they're close to, the Russians are close to a breaking point, breaking through the Ukrainian defenses there in the Donetsk, and once they sort of breach that line with Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, then it's going to be. There's nothing in between there and the Dnieper River. So this is going to be settled militarily. This is not going to be settled through negotiation or diplomacy because Russia doesn't need it. Russia's winning.
Yeah, and Larry, also, I don't know if you've seen it, but Gary just mentioned the fact that the top three American officials just all are hammering that same thing today. Well, in addition to what Peskov said that I didn't see, what Putin said that I did see was he had another meeting of his industrialists, and he said, listen, we are going to drive even harder in this year with expanding our military capacity, expanding the number of drones, expanding our military, redoing our doctrine of how we fight in light of the modern warfare. Everything he's talking about is we're at the beginning of the continued escalation, not even hinting that, but hey, maybe the thing will be over with shortly. Do you think that timing of that meeting was any coincidence?
No, I don't. I'm not a big believer in coincidence. I think it's planned. Putin is. He's a man of incredible patience and forbearance because, and you've said this as well, that if Russia had done to the United States using a proxy like Mexico what we have done to Russia using Ukraine as a proxy, we would have gone to war. We would have been firing intercontinental ballistic missiles at Russia. And yet Russia has held off. And I argue one of the main reasons for that is Putin and the Russian leadership, they all understand the actual cost of a war. because when Russia lost 27 million in World War II, that memory sticks with them. Whereas in the United States, we hardly lost anybody in World War. We lost 400. I've seen different numbers, up to 470,000 is probably the top number. Killed in action across all theaters. That, that was only
that was actually total deaths. It was actually 270 combat deaths, interestingly.
Well, I think that was in Europe, but if you add in the Pacific, actually, what's interesting, I went online to try to search it out. You'd think after all these years we would actually have some solid numbers. The numbers are all over the place.
Yeah, I've noticed the same.
Yeah. So, but the point is, we make money off of war. We don't lose fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters. A few people did, but they're a minority. They're a very, very, very small part of the United States. So that meant we'll go to war at the drop of a hat because we never pay a price.
Yeah.
And that's
Larry, didn't you say when
here.
you were in Russia last that the people that you were coming across, everyone was, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, see, Judge Knapp and I are we're sitting here at lunch at the school. There was Professor Alexander Dugin was there. There was the headmaster of the school, Konstantin Malofiev, a guy named Mikhail, who is a former Russian diplomat, and there was one other Russian. So there are 5 of them. And I raised the question. I said, "How many of you are sitting here at the table have a family member or a relative, an ancestor that died in the Great Patriotic War?" Every single one of them raised a hand. Every single one. And I looked at the judge. I said, "Do you have any family that died in World War II?" "No." "My family?" "No." That's the difference right there.
Yeah, that can't be overstated. Plus the fact that historically, even aside from the personal family connections, you have in the previous 2 centuries an invasion by the West into Russia, and it's a constant reminder, which has never happened to us. So we don't have any concept of why that would be important, but that just leads to a lot of the insane policies that we have, and it underscores it.
Yeah, Danny, if we were members of the Sioux Indian tribe or the Cherokees or the Pawnees or the Kiowas, we'd probably have a different perspective on that.
Yeah, I think we would. I think they do.
Yeah,
if I can say, and that's in the past. Look into the future. We had Doug McGregor on yesterday, and he made a comment that was similar to something you said on a number of occasions on our show. And I wanted to play it and get your view on how realistic you think what he said is in relation to a certain person and a 60-day time frame.
I think that President Putin made it clear that he's willing to talk to representatives of the Kiev regime. I don't think that includes Zelensky. And I'd be surprised if Zelensky is with us in 60 days. Zelensky has served his purpose from the standpoint of the West. He sacrificed 1.5 million Ukrainian lives on the battlefield. He has not much left to do. There's no way of stopping the Russians once they move west. The United States is losing patience. He's probably going to be expelled, hunted, or mysteriously disappear. I don't see much future for the man.
How about you? Do you see much future for the man?
No. I've given up though my predictive abilities with respect to how long he'll be around. I think I agree with Doug. You look at it objectively. There's no way he should be able to continue walking around, and particularly when the United States with pulls out and we drop the intel sharing, particularly. That's going to be a blow to them. And the Russians at the same time are going to be stepping up the attack. It wouldn't surprise me that we'd see an direct attack on Kiev by the Russians by July. And so at that point, if he's still around, he's going to have to flee. He'll be heading off to Lvov or maybe even London, who knows, or Paris.
Larry, doesn't there come a point to where the people of Ukraine can at some point go, hang on a second, we could have just followed the Minsk agreements and there wouldn't have been a war. We could have taken Istanbul and it would have been over in a couple of months. We could have negotiated in 2023 after our failed offensive, and we could have taken the deal that Trump offered here. And now all of a sudden there's artillery shells landing in Kiev again. Who's responsible for this? And then they take action.
Yeah, well, part of the reason there's no action is the information flow, the control of the information. And, I think you've picked up on that when you have, is it Admiral Jeremy? That
Commodore Jeremy, yeah.
Commodore Jeremy. And he notes that in a place like the United Kingdom, the mass of people have no idea what's actually happening on the ground in Ukraine because they're fed such a steady diet of disinformation or lies about it. So the same thing is taking place in Ukraine. The only thing, though, that I think there is it's sort of tough to hide the number of casualties, and the people who have lost sons and fathers and brothers, they are speaking out, and so that this could become a real issue. But I don't candidly know how Zelensky manages to hang on.
I think part of what it is that the Ukraine social media apparatus, the machinery behind it, is so sophisticated and so well done and relentless compared to let's say what Russia's doing. There's just no comparison. They love to highlight, for example, their hidden drone factories that they've got going. They make 4,000 drones. What is it? I forget how often. I wish I had the numbers off the top of my head. But they're producing so many drones, and that's just one of the aspects that they think that they are able to, that they will ultimately be able to overtake Russia because of what they're doing, for example, like that. And then just the TikToks that they put out, and again, all the media you guys have seen all the highly produced videos that they end up putting out. I mean, they spend a good amount of time on it, and it's effective. And I think that's one of the things that is helping to produce the aura of them being able to fight for victory.